Hello friends, in this video we shall have a discussion of the important 10 marks questions from the famous play The Boy Comes Home, written by A.A.Milne, and these questions answers should be written in one page or maximum 2 pages. So we have here question number 1, the character sketch of Uncle James, or the character sketch of Philip, or effects of war on Philip's character, or how does Philip prove himself a mature and responsible man, or compare and contrast the characters of Uncle James and Philip. All these questions in single answer. So let's begin it. Philip. Philip is the central character in the play The Boy Comes Home. The whole play is about the decision of his future career. He has heroic qualities. He has served in the army and has got the qualities of a typical army man. Therefore, he has learnt manners and etiquettes. Philip stands for the young generation. On the other hand, Uncle James stands for the authoritative values. Philip has charming and dominating personality. He has 4 years of experience of war. He gets up late for breakfast and does not follow any principles of discipline. Philip is a young man of 23. He has a dominating personality. He has a strong willpower and determination. When Mrs. Higgins, the cook, refuses to give him the breakfast, he at once takes the decision and dismisses her with 1 month's salary. He is bold, courageous, fearless, and undaunted. He is humanist at heart, but he does not allow others to take any undue advantage of his politeness. At last he succeeds in suppressing the undue authority of Uncle James. At once he decides not to terrify him any longer and declares that he is willing to join his jam business. He uses his physical force in order to put down his uncle's force of money. To conclude, it can be mentioned that the character of Philip shows that the young are capable of doing their work. So Philip stands for those who are confident and bold in their life. Now, Uncle James character. Uncle James is the second important character in the play The Boy Comes Home. He's an aged person. He is an authoritative and dictatorial, both by nature and temperament. Uncle James believes in the old traditions and the values of life, and he has a full command over his servants and the members of the family. Uncle James dislikes Philip's taking the breakfast late. He asks him to be punctual. He also he also forbids him to smoke without the permission of his aunt Emily. He says James is an authoritative and dictatorial. He real both by nature and temperament. When Philip demands his uncle of the money which his father left, he refuses to give him money. He wants to enjoy the advantages of being a guardian of Philip. He is of the view that he is still not mature enough to settle. Uncle James tries his best to compel Philip to accept his proposal to join his jam business, but all in vain. As soon as Uncle James takes out his revolver, as soon as Philip takes out his revolver from his pocket and aims at him, he's terrified and accepts Philip's demand for handing over to him his late father's money. Thus, Uncle James refuses to give him money, and it causes a row of conflict between them. Uncle James plays the role of a villain in the play. He wants to impose his authority on him. He shows his authoritative and dictatorial nature. The playwright has given us a lesson that the elders should not use their undue authority against the youth. We should provide them full chances so that they can show the talent and the worth in life. Question number 2. What is the importance of dream or the dream scene in the play The Boy Comes Home? The dream scene in the play The Boy Comes Home is of great significance. Philip does not pay attention to his uncle's advice. He reacts against his uncle's dictatorial nature. dictatorial nature or dictatorial nature. He tells him that he cannot live with him any longer and demands from him the money which his late father had left for him. Uncle James refuses to give him money until he becomes 25 or he reaches the age of 25 because he's just now 23, 2 years to wait. In the dream, Uncle James threatens him to use the force of the money against him. Upon this, Philip takes out his revolver to suppress the force of money. He points the revolver at James. He tells him that it has killed 20 Germans and it does not matter if it kills one more Englishman. Then he takes out a bomb from his pocket. James is terrified at this. Philip puts the bomb into his pocket, telling James, "We will rehearse and enjoy it every day." At last, he succeeds in suppressing the undue authority of James. He at once decides not to terrify him any longer. Finally, he declares that he is willing to join his jam business. So, at the end of the dream, James is bewildered, very confused. Upon this, James feels relief. He offers Philip a post in the management of his business of jam. James says about his dream he will never be quite certain about it. So here the play comes to an end. Was it a dream or wasn't it? In short, the dream scene makes the play interesting. Through the dream scene, the real personality of James comes to the surface. After this, he is completely changed person. In fact, the conflict is resolved through this dream only. The dream resolved the conflict. Question number 3. Discuss the play The Boy Comes Home as an anti-war comedy or explain the comic elements in the play. So that's very important play. The important question. So what is the scope of comedy in the play? The play The Boy Comes Home is a very light comedy. Very first, we find comic element at the start of the play. Philip comes down for breakfast at 10 o'clock, whereas the breakfast is served at 8 o'clock. Philip asks Mary, the parlor maid, to bring breakfast. Mary tries to frighten him, saying that, "I'm sure I don't know what Mrs. Higgins will say." She starts repeating this sentence, and this sentence creates a lot of humor. Mrs. Higgins comes and shows her anger. However, Philip handles her so artfully that she has to tell a lie to save her job. She says, "Who said anything about going?" There's a great difference between how she comes and goes. This situation is very funny and makes us laugh. Secondly, Uncle James tells about his sacrifice in a very funny way. He says that he has done his part for the country by giving his nephew to the country, by suffering the shortage of potatoes, and by paying the excess profits tax. His claims are very funny. Thirdly, in the dream sequence, Philip talks about choosing a career. He says, "If I'm 4 years behind, so is everybody else." After the dream, Uncle James repeats the same words. He says, "Well, if you are 4 years behind, so is everybody else." So this is funny. So these are the comic elements in the play The Boy Comes Home. So at the end of the play, Uncle James' condition creates a lot of comedy when he laughs with a forced heartiness. Philip says about the strict manager, and he says, "Perhaps I would better bring my revolver." At this, Uncle James says, "Haha, a good joke that. Haha, a good joke, but only a joke, of course." So therefore, the play is full of comic elements, anti-war comedy. Question number 4, very important question. Explain the main conflict in the play. Generation gap or the conflict. The first conflict between Philip and Uncle James is that Philip does not like Uncle James' authoritative type attitude and his strict discipline in the house. Philip says to Uncle James, "Well, we don't get on too well together." So in the play, the boy comes home, authoritative attitude of Uncle James is seen. He treats Philip as an inexperienced schoolboy. He thinks that he will decide everything for Philip. He says to Emily, I have decided that the best thing he can do is to come into the business at once. He further says he will fall in with my wishes. He's ready to use his authority as a patron. Aunt Emily asks him to let Philip decide his career. However, he says he may, but I don't see what he proposes to do it so long as I hold the purse strings. So this is what he has in his mind when he calls Philip. He just wants to tell Philip about his decision. Secondly, Philip wants the money left by his father to learn some profession. However, Uncle James does not want to give him the money until he is 25 because he is 23 now. Philip does not like it and says, Look here, Uncle James, do you really think that you can treat me like a boy who just left school? Uncle James tells Philip that he will use the power of purse if he does not submit to his orders. Then Philip uses the power of a revolver and bomb. He frightens Uncle James to death, and Uncle James is ready to do what Philip wants. Therefore, these are the conflicts between Philip and Uncle James. It's only the dream scene which resolves this conflict between uncle and his nephew, Philip and Uncle James. Last question, and that's the extra question which I thought to add here because that's going to give you a brief glimpse of the overall play here. The boy comes home. Okay, before that, let me tell you, I have also done the summary of the whole play, so you can go through the link of the summary in the description. So, write the critical analysis of the play, The Boy Comes Home. The Boy Comes Home, written by A.A.Milne, is genuinely humorous and satirical play with a cleverly constructed plot and skillfully characteristic. In this story, Uncle James has done his duty for the country by giving his nephew for his country and also supplying jam to the army to earn his living. According to his uncle, Philip allows at 8 sharp Philip is allowed at 8 sharp in the house. Aunt Emily thinks that Philip may not be able to sleep because he should get up early in the army for breakfast. Philip did not spend his vacation with his uncle and aunt because they are not gay people. Philip deals strictly with Mrs. Higgins by giving further orders to prepare breakfast of coffee, jam, and 2 eggs and hamburger, if any. When Mrs. Higgins wishes to give a month's notice, Philip told her to dismiss her from her services and she can go at once, taking 12 months' pay amount, £45 per month instead of notice. Philip can be independent and able to do whatever he likes after the age of 25, and he can also ask for his own money that was given by his father. Aunt Emily thinks that the army has taught Philip and they have made more of a man, and he does not seem like a boy who can be told what to do. But Uncle James considers that the army has not taught Philip to decide upon the most suitable career for a young man in his future, so that he wants to talk with Philip to know of his future aim. James has also decided to make Philip involved in making into his jam business, or Philip can do any business according to his taste. Philip did not smoke in the house because, according to James, he has to take aunt's permission to smoke. Once Philip was in a trench on the border of a wood with his soldier friends, the company commander sent back to ask if they could move. Unluckily, the commander was killed. Then Philip became the company commander. At the time in the battle, there was an intelligent question to give order to move, hang on, or to go back. But Philip gave the order to move. This experience made him feel older than his age. In Uncle James' dream, Philip does not want to enter in the jam business because it does not happen to appeal him, but he wants to be he wants to be an architect. That he would like to pursue the profession of architect. Philip next offers his argument that once he annoyed his brigadier, he was covered with a red face and with about 20 medals. He was angry with Philip for about 20 minutes while he stood on attention, so that Uncle James is not so impressive than his brigadier. Uncle intends to use his authority on Philip by saying that Philip should be able to earn his living and obey his order. But Philip was a young man. He returns from the war after 4 years due to his father's death. His uncle James looks after him. James wants to give him his property only when he turns up 25. When he returns from the army, he demands his property. He wants to start his career in a new way as wanting to be an architect. He would like to be an architect. But James tells him that he gives his property when he will be 25 according to the agreement. Being a disciplined person, he wants to make Philip involved in his business and wants to control him. On hearing these things, Philip brings out his revolver and points at him. He says that he has killed about 20 Germans. Philip make Philip make plan to save himself from the charge of murder by saying that he will take the plea that he has killed him accidentally and it will be the purest accident. He threatens his uncle by saying that he will kill him if he will not agree with him. He also shows a bomb to James. In this way, he gets the upper hand of James and made him agree. Philip returns from the war and in a habit of killing enemies by pointing them. It's not unusual to him to kill other people because it will make no difference, for his attitude towards human life has changed, because it was no change in one's ideas about the sanctity of human life after the war. That means the war has changed humans' mentality after a very differently. But in real life, when James looks Philip's pocket in horror because he thinks that Philip is bringing out the bomb to kill him by showing him a revolver and threatening to murder him, but he got there his smoking pipe. So now we can say that Philip has gained bitter experience while he was in army. He does not need his revolver anymore because he is going to start a new life adopting James' business, that's jam business. James plans to utilize Philip in business, introducing him to the manager and making expert in solving the business problems. That's why he is not going to wear the uniform of a soldier anymore. So this is how I have tried to solve the 10 marks questions. So dear friends, wish you good luck for the examination and also watch all my videos of 2 marks, 5 marks in the 10 marks questions. And also go through the description box where I have done the summary of this play in a detailed manner. Please see the links of all the lessons in the description box. Thank you so much.
Dear friends, thank you so much for watching this video. You can reach me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Please do subscribe the channel, click on the like button for more videos on literature, workbook, pronunciation, grammar, communication skills, presentation skills, interview skills. Stay in tune with Mukesh English. Thank you once again.